Also, when it comes to doing any consultations, for those of you that do, any clinicians that do consultations, you're probably very familiar with the blue box on SystmOne to go in and type your consultation notes, which is absolutely fine. You can go in and use that. But what we've designed at Ardens is a little consultation template. This one here is this doctor's bag. If I click on it, basically what it will do for you is it will allow you to go in and do your history, examination, diagnosis and plan as you would do in the blue box, but it's designed for different, I suppose, consultations that you may need to do. So for example, if you need to do any breast consultation on a patient, along with respiratory or dermatology, whatever it may be, you'll click on the relevant tabs. But if I click on the breast one here, you'll see now that it's designed for me to go in and fill in applicable information for a breast consultation. So I can see here we've got history and examination where I can go in and type some notes in. I've got little preset buttons here as well, which can help me along the way. So if the patient's having a breast lump and breast discharge, I could highlight those two with my mouse with a little control button, click OK, and it pops it into the history bit. But of course, I can type in other information if I want to. Similarly, with an examination, I could use, obviously there's some no kind of options there, but if I needed to write anything in, I could do that as well, and it will do similar things. And what it also does, it looks to see if they've ever had any of these kind of history and examination consultations based on breast in the past. This patient back in February 2020 had that written on their record for an examination, and obviously today I read that quite simply. I could right click and show the journal entries, that full consultation if I wanted to as well, which I think you'll find also quite useful. But in here I could go in and type some examination notes or use the presets. Now the reason this is good to do, because when you get to do a referral, especially through Ardens, this information could be embedded straight into that 2E-weight referral letter. So you're not having to type anything else in that you may need to. Whatever's included in this consultation could then appear in that letter for you to use, and you'll see that as I start to use this in a minute. Another great thing about examinations, you can fill in some numerics in there as well. And again, it's really easy to do that as a tip rather than doing it under the examination button there as well. So I think that's really, really key to do. As I mentioned earlier about the screening, which I did through the screening button, I can also do a breast screening button is in here as well. As I mentioned, you will find these buttons in a multitude of places. So whether it's a relevant place to have a cancer screening button, such as this template here, you can see I can also access that quite simply as well. I can also go and look at family history and things like that if I needed to at this stage as well. So that's really useful to gather that information. I'm going to go and search the record elsewhere to find it. It's all here within this one template. Same with phlebotomy. I could go in, look at previous phlebotomy results if that was useful, or I could go in and order some. That's all easy to do through this template. So I'm not having to go elsewhere to do all of that. Got a medical drawing. If I wanted to draw on this, I believe this will pop into the Ardens consultation, the 2E-weight form, which I'm going to show you in a minute. So that's really useful. Anything that you draw on here will also be embedded straight away into that referral letter as well. So that's really useful to know. You've got your codes again, which you can go in and add, and again you can see previous codes that may have been added on the patient as well, which again you'll find useful to look at. And similarly with the plan, you can go in and obviously do anything from there that you may need to. Key thing on here really, I suppose, as you go down this list, is if you needed to take any next steps to refer them on, you've got the referral criteria button here, and you'll find this, to be honest with you, on every single one of these tabs you'll find the referral criteria button there ready for you to use. So there it is on the dermatology one, ENT, it's there for any head and neck cancers and so on. You'll always find it there available for you to use in the same place, but of course when you click on it, it will be different options in each of the different tabs. So in this occasion, because I'm on the breast tab, it's going to fire open a bunch of different referral criteria that I might want to do with this patient regarding and breasts. So in here, if I wanted to do something on for a 2-week wait referral criteria for breast on here, if I click on this button, what it will do is it will fire open the opportunity, following all the nice guidance for you to do an assessment on your patient. What's really good about this, because I'm doing it through the little template on here and clicking on the consultation button, because you're doing that, what it's doing is it's firing up the assessment based on somebody under the age of 30. The reason it's doing that is because my patient's 22. If my patient was between 30 and 50 or over 50, it will open up that tab for me to do the applicable assessment for that patient's age. So that's really good. If you did do it from there, it opens up on the applicable page for you to go in and use straight away. You notice at the bottom at the moment, all of these things for doing any fast track codes and any other codes that might want to use for management and possible cancer, breast cancer buttons are all grayed out at the moment because I haven't done any assessment on the patient. I haven't ticked any of these assessment options. But as soon as I go in to select any of these, such as this one here, it fires up straight away that this patient has got a possible breast cancer based on that assessment. And if I was to tick that box to say that I believe that is the case, you then get the option to do your management moving forward. So you've got your possible diagnosis clearly explained, tick box there, which obviously will go through that with the patient. You've also got your fast track codes, which you could potentially add at this stage as well. Again, it's highlighted with those blue stars, making sure that you think about doing these for payment purposes. So if I went in and used them there and then and tick those boxes, I know that they've been added there straight away for me, for that patient on their record. Clicking OK will then end that referral criteria template, and everything that I've just ticked will then be obviously saved into the journal. If I did need to finish anything off on here, maybe you might want to give the patient some leaflets that they might find useful. There's a whole bunch of different kind of breast cancer leaflets that you could offer them. You can copy and paste these into text messages. I could highlight them, Control-C to copy, and then paste them into a text message and send these off to patients. So these are really useful to be able to do that, or you could do it through AccuRx if you wanted to paste it into there and send them some breast cancer leaflets or some genetic ones there, or whatever it may be. So that's really useful to do too. But I would then finish off and tidy up my particular consultation with other things that I might want to write. And then when I click OK, that will then obviously end or stop those consultation notes have now disappeared. Now, for those of you that are using our pro version on Ardens, which would mean that you'll have access to your local 2-week wait referral letters in Ardens, you could click on the little orange arrow then to then produce this 2-week wait letter. So if you were to click on there, it will open up the relevant consultation, the relevant 2-week referral template for you to use. Now this page is in Salisbury, so if I was to do it here, it will open up local for Salisbury. So I'm just going to go elsewhere to get into the one that I think some of you might get popping up if you were to use it. So you would, if you click on the orange arrow, you would imagine you might get, some of you might get this Horsham Mid Sussex one, for example, which when I go into 2-week waits, it's got all of the Surrey and Sussex Cancer Alliance referral forms in here, as well as other ones in the area as well. So if I wanted to use that one in particular, you can see here for breast, it tells me what I need to do. I can click on the right button. So if I was to choose that particular Cancer Alliance template, click on there for breast, and right now, hopefully you can see this working on my Zoom screen as it opens up the referral letter, which is just doing for a second. Hopefully you can see my referral letter that's just popped up on the screen, but you will be able to see the relevant form that you'll probably be familiar with using. You'll also notice that that medical drawing has popped up at the bottom as well for you to be able to go in and see that you've filled in previously. And then slowly further down, you've then got the consultation notes that you would have done on your patient too. So that possible breast cancer template that I filled in is all nicely laid out here with all the options that I ticked, and it says yes that I went over those as a possible breast cancer, as an assessment and so on in there. And then it will also bring through the consultation notes that you may have done for that patient as well. So that will all be embedded in this document for you to use. You can tidy it up if you did some other notes as well, and remove the ones that may not be related to what you're looking at today. So that is possible as well. It's all there for you to to amend if you needed to. As you're probably all familiar with this as well, for those of you that do it, you can tick the boxes using the form protection button as you would do before. Sorry, someone's just pressed the buttons there. And then once you've done that, you could do the save for future editing, which will then obviously allow perhaps your secretary or somebody to amend that letter later on down the line. You can task admin from here to get them to do their bits. There is a link to the e-referral service if you wanted to go ahead and do that yourselves through the normal processes in there. And you can see at the bottom there that NHS email referral has already been created. It can be right-clicked and amended and all that kind of stuff still in there as well, but that would be available for the person that would then do those next steps if it was passed on to somebody else to do. So that's really useful resource there for you to use. Okay, so I got that through clicking on the orange or the little orange arrow
Mark,
underneath the patient's name. Hiya.
Can I just cut in there about because you've got the safety netting code there as well on that particular bit. So if you miss it the first time on the other bit, then it's there to put in on that box there. Yeah, thanks.
Indeed, Mark, yes, sorry, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah, so you've got the cancer safety netting code there as well. If you did it through other other areas, you can use it there too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Another option that you have, so I'm just going to cancel out of this now. Another option that you have, you can also find on the consultation template as well. And this is something that we've done a bit of work on in the last year and a half. And I think it's a really good tool to refer to. And this is NG12 Cancer Symptoms and Findings Analyzer. Now, for those of you that are familiar with SystmOne, what you could do if you wanted to use this regularly, rather than going in here and selecting it every time, I would add it to your F12 favorites. So when you go into a patient's record and you click on F12, you can create a list of your favorite templates. I've popped it on one of my favorites here. So basically, the way that I do that is I would type in the name of the template. So I know it's called the nice NG12 templates. Search for it. It's found it here. That's the templates that I want to use regularly. I could drag and drop it under a letter, so it's nice and easy for me to get at. So if you've got a patient that's going through a whole bunch of symptoms with you, and you want to go in and code it and then act on those, this could be a really good way of doing it. You can hit F12, click on the letter that you've chosen to put it under, and it will fire open that NG12 Cancer Symptoms and Findings Analyzer template for you straight away. It would do the same if you went through that consultation button as well. But I think what's really good about this is it brings through symptoms that this patient has had, including the one that I've just literally added just a minute ago. It's already in there. And it's also got an alert on here already, because I've already raised that kind of made a start on that 2-week wait breast referral for that particular patient. So that's also there as well, as you can clearly see. But if I do have a patient that was going through a bunch of symptoms and I wanted to both record them and then see what kind of alerts will come up once those have been recorded, I could do that through the very top bit here, which is the Symptoms and Findings Analyzer. Clicking on this, you could choose a particular area. So if I went into female GE, for example, I could go in and say, well, this patient is suffering from, say they're going through appetite loss and bloating and fatigue and you could go on and on. Obviously, you've got loads of options there to tick yeses or nos on there. But once you start, ticking some of these yeses, and then when you finish doing, adding these symptoms in, and by the way, you can click on these little pencils, by the way, if you wanted to type any notes in regarding some of these codes as well. So don't forget that may be quite useful for some things that may be applicable for any free text to add to those codes. But once I click OK, what this is going to do now is it's going to run that template, and it's going to then fire up a bunch of alerts of things that I need to be made aware of for this patient based on those symptoms that I've just ticked. So I might need to do some bloods for this patient. I may need to do a 2-week wait for them. It's got all of these options in here of things that I need to be considering based on these symptoms on here. What's also quite useful is that it could also then look at previous symptoms that patient's had recently as well. So the patient may have come in, saying that they're suffering from bloating a couple of weeks ago, and of course you're adding some other things in here as well. It could add it to the list. That could even come in through an out of hours letter. Somebody's coded it and it's come in here, which may not have been done through your service, but the code's been added to the record there, so that's quite useful too. If I wanted to from here as well, I've got the option to do those possibles templates. So I did the breast cancer possible template earlier, but if I went into any other one, for example, lower GI, just as an example, I've got the opportunity to go in and do any assessments and impressions and management from here as well if I wanted to. And you'll see that this is all fired up with fit tests and all that kind of stuff on there as well. And that'll work in exactly the same way as the breast one did. As soon as I start adding in a few of these things that I'm assessing, it will then bring up the impression and the management moving forward from there as well. So that's really, really useful. At the bottom here, once I've done my symptoms and I've got my alerts on here, I can then, if I wanted to, choose my next steps. If a blood test was required, I could go in and use the code. I could actually go ahead and do it there and then. The phlebotomy button will take me into the opportunity to record any electronic bloods that I need to do. You can do any blood forms on here as well. You can see previous stuff on there too. It's all there available for you to go in and use if you wanted to. Similarly with the fit test, you've got the fit test requested, but recode there, and you've got that fit template that we looked at earlier available there for you to go in and do any ordering or anything that you want to do through there. It's got all the actions and stuff for that test on there if you needed to do anything with that. There's also a follow-up button, so if you did want to follow it up and get somebody else to to book an appointment, or if you want to book an appointment now or send a task to somebody for them to do something regarding this patient, this follow-up button is there for you to do that, so you're not having to leave the template to remember then to send that task later on. You do it as you're there, click on the follow-up button, click on your new task and send that to somebody, or send it to yourself, or do whatever you would normally do in those situations. Book an appointment there if you wanted to there and then as well, which is also possible to do. If a 2-week wait referral was needed, again, you've got the opportunity to go into your local referral letters. Again, this is because they're in Salisbury, it's opening up all the local ones for that area. But again, if you were to click on that and you're on our pro version, you'll get access to your local referral letters to do that 2-week wait referral there and then as well, if you wanted to. And you've got the drop down box for all the different fast track codes there that you may need to use. And of course, you've got your cancer safety netting code there, which you could add in straight away from here. Or obviously, as you noticed earlier, you can do it on the next communications template moving forward. Okay, so that's the NG12 Cancer Symptoms and Finding Analyzer. Just to let you know that when you read the disclaimer, it doesn't deal with childhood cancers, aren't indicated as part of this analyzer, just so that you're aware. So there is a disclaimer on there if you wanted to look at that. That's there for you to refer to. But yeah, so that's the NG12 Cancer Symptoms and Findings Analyzer. If you were to tick this box as well to say that you've used this checklist, That's also incorporated in some of our reports as well, so that you can see people that have used the symptoms checklist and obviously use the NG12 guidance to do that. So that's quite useful as well.
Thank you, Mark. Just before you move on, there were a couple of questions in the chat. I wonder if you perhaps could answer them as we go. I think actually your disclaimer was just that you brought up probably answered this question. Nigel has asked whether the templates are gender restricted. If so, what do we do with our transgender patients? But I think you've probably answered that by showing the disclaimer.
Yeah, there was a disclaimer for that in there, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think so. So I think that's I think I read that it was the gender that was assigned on SystmOne. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's dependent on how the patient's gender is recorded upon SystmOne. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess that would be a practice specific and how you would record that patient's gender on your own systems may affect that. So that may possibly need to bring that up again, when we've got more detail on that. So we'll come back to you, Nigel. And Esther's asked about the fit window. If we have a result from symptomatic fit of less than 1, how can that be recorded? Looking at the window, you can record 1 or less than 10. I think, Esther, it says less than 10 or greater than 10, I think, from memory. So as in, essentially negative. It's obviously not negative, but fit less than 10 is the cutoff for referral criteria for the 2-week rule. So I think it's less than 10 and greater or equal to 10 is what it says there. So anything less than 10, you would have in that essentially negative, although it's not negative, it's a less than 10 result. Okay, hope that answers those questions. Thanks, Mark. Sorry.
Actually, on the transgender as well, we have created the template for under the Ardens consultations S to Z. We've got a transgender template which you could have a look at as well. I don't know if that would answer any. You've got all the different kind of options there with different codes that you could use there as well. So some of that might be useful.
And I think that might be useful for the cervical screening as well, actually, so that if you have a patient who is transgender, you know that their biological sex is female but may not identify as female, that would also help in your searches for the cervical cancer.